Hello? Let me see. Are we live? We're live? Okay, good. Okay. Welcome. You know, I'm using new software, new things. So I'm getting used to it. Let me know how things sound and how do they look. I've gotten some good feedback from Pops. Hey, Pops. Pops was someone, along with B. Wolf, who suggested that I just go to OBS. I want to tell you, I like OBS, and I'm going to get used to it. But Pops let me know that the last stream was looking good in terms of visual and sounding good. Okay, Lisa is saying, sounds good. Good. Molly, hey, 5 times 5. Christine says, audio is crystal clear. This is great. Okay, now, one thing I do want is to, wait a minute, is to figure out how to get the stream where I can see it. Well, I can do it on the device, okay? So I'll be working with, give me a bit of time to get used to the new technology. But I want to thank you for even taking the time to hang out at our new law school. We're just in a different classroom, as I say, on this channel. And the main channel, for anybody who's new to the issues, I am not able to access the back studio of that channel. So until I could get access to it, I will be limited in what I do, because I could do more on this channel for now. Okay, so thanks for understanding. It's one of those techie things that we go through. No worries. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to look at the chatmosphere on my device, but I also have to read from the device, okay? But let me just check in with everybody, see how we're doing. How was your day? Sean's here. Hey, Sean. How do you like the new OBS streaming? Let me know. Does it seem better? Because it does seem better in terms of I'm not having any stream interruptions, I'm noticing. So from that standpoint, I'm very impressed. It's open source, and you know, we like open source. What a wonderful world it will be when we are open sourced for many things. It's snowing, Molly says, in northern Arizona. Nice. You'll have to show us some pictures. I wish you could share it right here. But you love OBS, Molly? Okay, do you stream from OBS? Let me know, because I told a lot of people about StreamYard. I don't know, it seemed that StreamYard was very good initially. So thank you, Molly. Yay! All right, so I want to talk about a subject. It seems that this is a circle back moment, another one, okay, to borrow from another Jen. But this is something that became interesting for me to look into around 2020. Now, the subject of faking your own death, which is the more general or generic way to say the term. But pseudocide is the official term for faking your own death. And this is not something that is so far-fetched, which when I first started sharing content about pseudocide in terms of JFK Jr., a lot of people were just like, "Ree!" "Ree!" And it became a real big thing. We talked about that a lot. I'll be checking in with you here. We talked about that a lot because in 2020, some of us went down the proverbial rabbit hole. And my experience with the issue of pseudocide when it comes to JFK Jr., I happened to pick up on it when I read a People magazine article. So I'll tell you about that in a minute, but Sean says, I still believe. A lot of us haven't talked about this subject for a while. I really haven't been talking about it. I have some other knowledge, but I don't really get into it too much, right? Because when you come from sort of backgrounds that have like, you have a parent who could be, in the certain ABC type of things and different organizations, and you have uncles that are, high ranking Black Masons, you know what I'm saying? And I've told you all my background. My family is Black Boule. So I'm not trying to shirk away from it. That's my family. Many people in my family are Black Boule. Okay? And I had to come to the, conclusion that just happens to be my family background. We all have different backgrounds. So I know a lot of you have fathers possibly that were Masons or are Masons. You probably grandfather. I found out later in my life that my grandfather was a Rosicrucian. So that wasn't fun to learn. But yeah, my grandfather was a Rosicrucian. And he did denounce it. So by the end of his life, he was not affiliated. I don't know a lot about how you get out of these places because I have never taken an oath, so I don't know what it's like. But I know my grandfather did not stand for the Rosicrucian belief system, and he did, like I say, he repented. Let's say that. He repented. And in terms of other types of affiliations, I have a lot of friends that, Black Boule friends. They're probably not friends anymore. I've pretty much gotten, the cold shoulder from the Black Boule. They're not pleased with me. But the thing is that I've never taken an oath. So I'm not affiliated with them. I may be connected, but I'm not affiliated. Okay. I can't help my family. And then when you grow up in certain circles, especially Philadelphia, for those that know about Philadelphia, I know we have some people in the chatmosphere that about Philadelphia. Oh, sorry. Let me, just bear with me. I need to just move the chair a little bit. Okay. My rickety chair. Okay, how's that? Is that good? Okay. So let me see what you are. Sean says, did I read that already, Sean? Your grandfather also was he a Rosicrucian? So, yeah, we have a lot in common there. Yeah. Okay, so there's a delay in the chat that I'm watching on my device. It's weird because I'm looking here on OBS and I know I can pop a chat out, but you know what? I'm going to do some review, and I meant to do it today, but I'm going to do some review and learn this OBS, and just play around with it more. But yeah. Okay, Sean clarified Mason. Okay, so grandfather, Mason. Yeah, so we have backgrounds, and we're not proud of that, but it is what it is, as they say, right? What are you going to do? So being from backgrounds, and then some of us have a little more, another kind of background with, family, where, like I said earlier, they could be affiliated with the ABCers, and, without doing anything to trigger their bots and things like that, I'll speak in coded language. I think most people can figure out the alphabet guys, okay? So anyway, being that I have that background, all right, I'm a real weird, I know you already know that, but here I am. I used to sing songs to Fidel Castro, and probably not a lot of your friends would say that, right? That as a child, I used to sing songs, to Fidel. I know what it's like to be in Fidel Castro's presence. And I know what it felt like as a child to be in his presence. And, it is what it is, okay? So without getting into too much of that, like I say, the Philadelphia type of background also, Philadelphia and then Chicago, or as my mother says, Chicago. So I got the Chicago, Philadelphia thing too. Lots of history. And being from that type of background where I have, uncles from Chicago that they did business with, Bugsy, and who else do we want to say? Bugsy and those guys, right? And, they had nightclubs, and they were backed by the Italian mafia and that kind of stuff. I probably shouldn't have said that word. Let me just keep saying alphabet to people, okay? So, yeah, so I have that Chicago thing, then the Philadelphia thing. And Philadelphia was the birthplace of not just history that we know, but also the history of the Black Bullet. Okay, we have one of the biggest Masonic temples in Philadelphia, Black Temple. So about the Black Masons, right? And that they are the Prince Hall, right? We know about Prince Hall. Oh, wait a minute, Sean. I don't know. The bots are here. They want me to review a message, and it says either hide it or show it. So I'm going to show it, of course. Let's see. So everybody, let's see what the bot wanted to protect us from. Something that Sean said. Oh, okay. I wish I could put it on the screen right now. I'm not in. I guess I'm not in. Maybe I could go. Just bear with me. I'll figure it out. And I'll get on to the topic. Yes, Capone. Yes, Capone, Sean. Molly, yes, Chicago. You have to remember. Yes. So, being that you have backgrounds like that, some of you can relate. Jules, hey, welcome. Jules is saying my grandpa came from Chicago. Our grandpa, your grandpa, my uncles. You never know. They probably did business together if they were in the business end of it. My family, Chicago family, they were in the nightclub business. So they had really nice, really for the Black society in Chicago. A nightclub, very, you would think Harlem Renaissance, really bougie Black people. So one of my uncles had a establishment like that. And then my grandfather, Okay, he died. Okay, so I don't know that side of the family, that grandfather. I never met him, and I don't know how he died in terms of the details behind his death, because people whisper and you don't know, but now that I'm older, I can put things together and say, okay, so Uncle Frank, okay, so he was whatever, and then he was affiliated with these guys, okay, Capone and all these guys you hear about in these movies, whenever they talk about the mafias and things like that. So my Uncle Frank, he was a driver, I believe, for one of the big, I don't know which big, mobster, but he did lots of other things besides drive him around. It was, things, you drop off things, you do that. And then my grandfather had the nightclub. So they say that was sort of like the face, or how they say a front for the mob, or, blackface for the mob, something like that. So, and then my grandmother, so she was a widow, very young, because my grandfather, who I wouldn't have met, he died young. So she was widowed. She never remarried, and she had her own beauty shop. So she had a big beauty salon, that's what they used to call it, different names back then. And hers was very glamorous. It was for the well-to-do black society in Chicago, okay? So like I've told you, and I'm just giving you some background. My grandmother, she did the hair of all of these, socialites and celebrities. So Lena Horne was one of her clients. That was like one of her big clients. So this is the background, okay? And being that I have that black boule background, I've heard a lot, and I've actually experienced a lot. So when I hear conspiracy theory, I just chuckle because I don't talk about a lot of things that I've experienced and things that I'm now putting together with the help of many people. You all, I bring up the names of the people that I consider, I'm so appreciative for what I'm learning. And one in particular is Kevin Gillespie. I'm learning so much, people. I mean, massive growth. And it's just amazing. So now I'm able to see this stuff a lot. And again, being that I have the background that I have, it's not hard to believe that somebody would fake their death. Like, faking your death is kind of like, okay, show me something else that is a big conspiracy, please, because that right there, I mean, okay, for instance, I worked at a hospital in the suburbs of Philly called Chestnut Hill Hospital, okay? So I worked at Chestnut Hill Hospital. One of the doctors in my department had faked his death, okay? He didn't do a good job of it because they found him in Mexico, okay? But he had been missing for many years, actually. So I just want to say that the pseudocide is not far-fetched. Is it to you? Let me know, because one moment, let me check. Josephine is doing a little bit of, disrupting. 1 minute, okay? Please excuse me. Okay, maybe she will calm down. But Let's see what you... Oh, no. They're moderating comments, everyone. This is different. Okay, so Molly, you got a bot on one of your comments. Let me hit... It gives me it gives me an option to say show or hide. So they're doing a nanny bot. We'll call it nanny bot. So I'm going to say show. Okay. Let's see. Sent to the corner by the bot. It did it to Molly, Sean. I'm looking at your comments. Oh, gosh. Jules says, my grandpa was a scary man. I remember he terrified me as a kid. Really? I have an uncle that was like that. I had an uncle who terrified me. He was a Philadelphia police officer. And, he was very intimidating as like this strong, today they would call it toxic masculinity, right? Lots of testosterone. And when he spoke, it was the strong voice. I like that, okay? But it did put a little, if he said something, we all froze. And he demanded respect. When you came in the room, you were supposed to greet the adults a certain way. So whenever you were around him, you were mindful to always keep a certain decorum about you. Okay, so it's interesting because as you look at people and you balance out things and you're more humbled as life has changed a lot of us in terms of how we look at things. We're not so black and white. We're not so black and white about it, right? And we are humbled in the knowledge that we have been lied to about so much. And we are beginning to understand more and more and how much we have been deceived. It's a humbling thing. But I have an uncle like that too that would have the terrifying thing. But he was a great man. He was very kind. But he was you talk about judgmental. People would call him judgmental because he profiled people. Okay, I'm just going to say it. He profiled people. Basically, he would look you up and down and he could judge what kind of person you were. And he based it on the clothing, the condition of your shoes, the condition of your teeth, the way you wear your hair, how you smell. I mean, he would call people bums. Just bums. Guys hanging on the corner. Look at those bums. So I always heard him saying he was harsh. But that's what we love about people, right? He would be like a person, like a no-nonsense, like Trump. Okay, he would be a mean tweeter. Okay, my Uncle Irving would be a mean tweeter for sure. But I loved his strength. I loved that he was to me he was a righteous judger, and he was the head of his family, and I had nothing but respect. And still, even learning some of his weaknesses as stories come out when people die, and you have to then, sort it out and just look at how did he treat me, because people are going to have their opinions, not that anything bad had come out, but the stuff that's typical that happens, in life, nothing out of the ordinary. But, yeah, I get it. You love Lena Horne, Phyllis? Yeah. She was amazing. Jules says lots of mysterious, unalivings in your family. Oh, really? Whoa. Yeah. Tina's here. Hey, Tina. How are you? Welcome. Lisa. Hey. Yeah, so back to the topic at hand. When you have these backgrounds, we don't have to think that everything is a conspiracy theory. I mean, because We know that there are groups that conspire to consolidate power and control over people. Why is that so hard to grasp? It's pretty simple, especially when we've heard over and over that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you see even things that are going on right now on Twitter, the Twitter files, if you've been keeping up with them, are amazing. What is being exposed? The back channel of communication that was going on with the Twitter trust and safety, which sounds so dystopian, right? Sounds so 1984. So the trust and safety division of Twitter, when you read actually the Twitter files, and you just see the absolute arrogance, narcissism, just the elitism that these young people possessed, that they could feel, that they could censor a sitting United States of America president. When I think about the audacity, and you all gonna just have to let me just kind of I don't know, this is kind of a stream of consciousness, but I'm gonna get back to the subject. But I do want to say something about what we're seeing, because it fits into just the flow of what I want to say. So these back channel emails that we're seeing between the executives, the trust and safety, and all of these different people, I would be remiss to say that I see a connection to how we have parented young people. And I've said this on other live streams that, I feel that the Generation X and baby boomers have a lot to repent for when it comes to just the things that we have done to hand down a legacy to these young people that, look, they are now in positions of power. These are the children that you saw at the mall that were spinning around the floor, having a tantrum, screaming and have you ever seen a child? Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a child have a full-blown hissy fit tantrum where they are spinning around on the floor like a banshee? Let me know, because I have. I have witnessed full-blown hissy fit tantrums from children in my family. Okay? How about that? So I didn't have to go too far to see tantrums. And then I saw tantrums with my friends, like younger siblings, or, just if you're not out in public, someone just their child is melting down in a way that everybody feels uncomfortable. I'm not adding any yeast to this. When I was in the mall once, a woman was there with her child. I didn't see the dad. I don't think I saw the dad. Well, she told the child couldn't have something. And the child proceeded to, just try to hit her, and she wasn't, playing into it. She was just saying, well, no, you can't do it, whatever his name was. But Then he dropped down. He wouldn't come with her. She dropped on the floor and just started spinning around, screaming. And I'm walking by. And this is when the mall used to be a thing. Do you remember when you spent time in the mall? So I'm looking at this child. I didn't have a child at the time, but still, I was so offended because he was screaming names to his mom and just the things he was saying. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to step in. I know, but I just kept walking and walked past. No one helped her either. No one helped this mother. I've been on a bus stop once in Philadelphia, SEPTA. I was on the bus stop and a lot of people waiting, and it was a young mother. You could tell her child had special needs, and the child was just having a fit. She was young, she was struggling. And she happened to really she did something and really struck the child, and it was really harsh. And it was harsh, we were all kind of it was, cringy. And there was an older black woman, just that, I'm talking about, that nurturing, deep, soulful, if you were crying, you just want to hug her. She was there on the bus stop. And she saw how this woman was struggling, but she saw how the woman was abusing her child. And she said something like, baby, don't do that to him. You know how they are. And the young mother, she responded. It was like this instant thing, she responded, and the woman spoke to her and encouraged her. She didn't judge her, but she said she understood she was having a hard time. And I think she even prayed for the woman right there. It was powerful. It was something you'll never forget type of situation. So I just want to say, I don't want to say children that have special needs, that I'm not talking about that population group, but I'm talking about the children we have witnessed having hissy fit tantrums. They are now in positions of power. They are now, think about it, Twitter and all of these platforms, all of these influencers and people that, that are pushing culture. It's not us anymore. It's not Gen X. It's not baby boomers anymore. I mean, yeah, I think the money and all that is, but it's now the young people. I that's what I thought of today, that I wanted to just share, that when I read the arrogance that they could censor a president, that means that they have no respect for their for their parents. When I said having tantrums and hissy fits and calling the parents names and just disrespect of authority. I watched how authority became something that people didn't respect, young people. And I remember a time when it was different. So now we have a harvest of these kind of people. And just imagine when you really think about it. It's amazing. 1 minute, let me take a little sip and look at, the bot is on Tina right now. Tina, oh boy, what kind of, let me show your comment. Wow, what are the words that are being triggering? I'm wondering. Yes, Phyllis, she felt the love. Yeah, the love was everyone, I think, on that bus stop at that moment. We were all really moved. Something had happened. It was a powerful moment to witness. Oh, Tina, I think I know why. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to see what it is. If it's something I have turned on, that it's like, because I've never had that experience where it's picking up words. I have to check in and see if there's something enhanced, okay, with why they are censoring certain words. And I'll make sure I definitely do more. So if you hear me do more coded stuff, something's going on. So I will. Yes, Jules, exactly. And that's what I couldn't help but think of that when I saw what was happening with Twitter. Back to the subject at hand, the pseudocide, and why it isn't far-fetched. So, when I first considered this for JFK Jr., because, let's see, had I heard of anybody in the celebrity world? I don't think I had then. I think I heard about it with Tupac. That was probably the, celebrity that I kind of heard it about. Tupac. And not so much Michael Jackson. When the Michael Jackson death happened, I really, I was grieving, the whole world seemed to be grieving. I had no indication or reason to think that it could have been pseudocide at the time, I'll say. Okay, caveat there. At the time. I had to have more information and some time to pass by, not to get into that right now, but I felt that the narrative they had put forth was very believable, and I was angry because I felt that it should have been investigated. The one thing that I did suspect is the doctor that lived in his home. I suspected something strange that needed to be investigated with that doctor. So I was angry because I wasn't a big Michael Jackson fan. I liked him, but I know people that are full-blown Michael Jackson fans. And I can't say that I reached that level of, loving Michael Jackson. I love the music, the artist. I liked him a lot because I related, kind of on this level of growing up listening to him and his brothers, and I was born in Gary, Indiana, which is a suburb of Chicago. So that little connection, I've always felt like, it's weird to be born in Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana is another rabbit hole. But, that's the most that I really thought about a fandom. I did like Janet Jackson because she's more of a peer, and I loved all of her music growing up. And I'll probably do a little Janet Jackson because it's a lot to do with the FCC. So just know that might be the next thing I do. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk about legal issues and Janet Jackson, okay? So, or Miss Jackson if you're nasty. But, so I wasn't on the level of, I went to Spelman with one of my roommates from freshman year. Now, that was a Michael Jackson fan, okay? I couldn't even reach that level. And I had another friend who, when Michael Jackson came on, she would cry. And I'm sitting here are you serious? You're crying right now? So I think that's a fan, all right? How about you? Let's see who's here. Golden Amethyst, welcome. Thank you for dropping by to this classroom, we're calling it. We're just hanging out. Yes, Jules, Chester Bennington, and Chris Cornell, very sus. Yeah, we might get into that. We might circle back there. But let's see. Lisa, hey, I grew up having Michael Jackson and Donny Osmond pictures on my wall. Yes, the Donny Osmond years, right? So yes, you're my people. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Mish, hey Mish, they're trying to nanny bot your comment. Let me show it. They are nanny botting things. Oh, Phyllis, they nanny botted you. Let's see if anybody else got nanny botted. That'll be our new word, okay? If you get nanny botted, just give me a minute. It gives me for anybody who's just joining, I have this thing that moderates. It's a bot, obviously, and it's just giving me the option of showing the comment or hiding it. So there are keywords. So whatever is going on, I will be talking in more coded language if I can. I'll try. Okay, so back to, I didn't believe at the time that Michael Jackson had committed pseudocide. So that wasn't even an issue. I was sad again, so I moved on. Now, let's see. Tupac. Okay, Tupac, pretty much when all that went down, the Tupac and Biggie thing, I believed it. Because they had this narrative going on that had gotten so out of hand about the East Coast, West Coast battling. So it wasn't far-fetched for me to believe that Tupac was really gunned down in Vegas. Although I heard some of the things they were saying, you have to get permission to do those kind of things because it was on the Strip. And, I heard some of the conspiracy theories on the black spaces, but I didn't give them, much credence. It was just more of an interest, but not a big interest. But I knew there were people that believed that Tupac had committed pseudocide. That wasn't a big deal. Like, that's not even a big conspiracy theory, I don't think. It's just you have a certain segment of people that truly believe that Tupac committed pseudocide. How about you? Have you heard about that? Like, do you think that's a big conspiracy theory? Like that most people might laugh at it? I mean, I don't think anybody's laughing at Tupac committing pseudocide. What do you think? Let me see. Golden Amethyst said, been a while since I've commented. Just watch the class. Oh, I'm glad you do. Let me know that you're here, though, Golden. Thank you so much. Let's see. Lisa's saying that was even believed by people that were with him. Oh, a lady that I worked with, her husband was there when it happened, supposedly, allegedly. Oh, interesting. Well, I bet a lot of people, see, that's where, these conspiracy theories really gain traction because you have people that know it might be compartmentalized what they know about a situation, but it's hard to hide things if it's being done in the kind of the public area. You're going to have some people mess up. And then, of course, we have already heard that you can't keep secrets with more than one or two people. Wouldn't you say? Not easy to keep secrets. So because of that issue, of course we're going to have these things leaking out or being discussed. And it happens. So then it's sort of contained, though. Some people might, like in my family, if somebody knows something, you know how you could talk, like, for me, being a nurse that's taking care of celebrities, I worked at, I lived in Los Angeles for a while. I worked at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. And you know about Cedars-Sinai. Everybody knows about Cedars-Sinai. So I've worked at Cedars-Sinai. I've taken care of, different people and whatever. I don't talk about the various celebrities that I've taken care of. I don't mention their names to my family, but something might happen where you're kind of like, you're saying something, you don't know why you're saying it. Maybe it's a celebrity on TV and they might say, yeah, they love peaches. And you might say, no, they don't. And you know, your family's like looking at you like, and you're like, oh, I read it in People. But it might be because you were the nurse and they told you they hated peaches, you know, but you happen to know that. Okay? So you could kind of fact check some of the stuff, okay? So that's what I'm saying. People have different knowledge about things, but they compartmentalize it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I have taken care of celebrities. I've worked with Dr. Drew Pinsky in Pasadena. I worked at Las Encinas. If you know anything about, maybe I'll talk about that one day, go down that rabbit hole. So, you know, I've worked with these various people, and you just, you know, you compartmentalize it. So you keep those secrets because it has to do with HIPAA and it has to do with respect. I'm very guarded about what I know about people when I've taken care of them as a nurse. I'm very guarded about it. It is no reason for me to talk about those things. It's just no reason. In spite of not wanting to get fined, okay, and incarcerated, but it's a level of like, I've been raised a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't kick somebody when they're down. You know what I mean? So it you know, I'm going back to, a lot of us know things, okay? We know certain things, but we don't disclose everything we know. Do you get what I'm saying? We don't disclose. It's no reason to. All right? We haven't taken oaths, but it's just not everything needs to be disclosed by you or me or whatever. It has nothing to do with the fabric of whatever. It's just that you may have observed something. You just may have a little knowledge about something. But not to say that, like, if you've watched something terrible happening to children, there are certain things like you just don't keep to yourself. You just don't. But like, if somebody likes peaches, not a big deal. You see what I'm saying? Yes, Sean, basic human decency. And, you know, you're not the kind of person who would want to film somebody if they're being bludgeoned in public. You know, you wouldn't want to do that. Like, I've been on an airplane. I was on a flight from Los Angeles to Texas to Dallas. I probably told you guys this story. And someone was having an MI on the flight. And there happened to be a doctor, and he was an emergency doctor. So he had all kinds of like things with him. He had IV setups, and then the airline had their own emergency kit. So we went in, like, because they called to see if anybody was on the flight that was medical staff. So I had pushed my button. So it was just two of us. So we turned the row into like a mini hospital, like an ICU, ER. So I'm starting IV. The doctor is giving me, like, you know, aspirin, oxygen. I start an IV. So we're like, you know, laying the guy out, and just, you know, people moved away. But I looked up because I had to ask somebody to hold the IV as I primed it. But I looked up at people, and I don't know, I didn't say it, but I was like, I dare one of you MFers to film this. You better not. I don't know what it was. I did a look. You know what I'm saying? It's a look that you could give people. And I was kind of like, listen, ninjas, y'all better not film none of this. Nobody did. So they had basic dignity, okay? Human decency. Because why would you do that? But we live in a time now, I can't promise that I could give somebody a look and they wouldn't film somebody having an MI on the flight. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like people, I don't know. People are just different. And now, since we've had this pandemic, people are even more different, if you know what I'm saying. So it's just, it's one of those things. But I'm saying that to say that we have experienced things and we compartmentalize what we know. It may not be really clear on what we know, how it might connect to something until later. I'll just say that. Just from the examples that I've shared and some of the ones that you would share. Oh, they have even nanny-botted Molly has some spoons and she got nanny-botted for spoons. But you know what? We may need a bigger spoon, okay? For this class, we're going bigger, okay? Bigger spoons, okay? Bigger lessons, bigger spoons, okay? Bigger giants, we got bigger spoons, okay? What do you think, Molly? Why would they nanny bot that? All she did was spoon emojis. So just know, we're going to have a lot of fun. Are you ready? Are you ready, people? We're about to learn the law. We're about to learn the law. And we're going big. We're going higher to some higher highs, okay? Yes. Yes, okay, so Sean says, damn, Jen, how many spoons you got? You like that, Jules? 1 minute, let me. Alan's here. Alan, welcome. Hi there, Alan. Thanks for coming over to the other classroom. We're just hanging out right now. Alrighty. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. Where did I leave off? Okay, so you've got the nanny bot got you again, Molly. She says na 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 na. But why did they, again, I don't know what's going on with the bots, okay? I guess we have to say it's good reception. I don't have any interruptions in the stream right now. The sound, I think the sound is good. I think somebody told me I was a little too loud on the other stream. Let me know if I'm screaming at you like a banshee. Am I screaming? You can tell me to tone it down a bit. Let me know before I go on. Alan says, use a plastic spoon for the horrible crisis actors. Oh gosh, that's funny. Yeah, Lisa, you have to wonder about if we were in the 70s, okay, we're not doing Studio 54 spoons, okay? Not that I'm not screaming, Molly says. Okay, good. Because someone said I was. Maybe I was a little too close. I think when I'm close to them, I'm not used to microphones, okay? It's just a new technology for me. But I think I have the kind of microphone, I have it on a setting where I think it may cancel out like all the surrounding sound. So I'm still learning, okay? But you know, always give me feedback because I do want to make the quality better, and I will learn this OBS. So I'm in my learning curve right now. But thank you for all the love and patience with me. Let's see. Somebody just joined the chatmosphere. Patrice. Hey, Patrice. I hadn't seen. Oh, Centea? Whoa, wait a minute, y'all. Centea, we got to give Centea some love up in here. Hey, Centea, it's been a while. Thank you. I love it when we have a reconnection moment like this. Centea, oh, it's so nice to see you. Let's give her some love. Patrice says it sounds good. Okay, so good. I guess it's a trade-off. Yeah. Yeah, trading off that other. I was so frustrated with StreamYard's just messing. You all experienced it. It was very annoying. But this is much better. Okay, so back to the subject at hand. The aspect of, okay, so I went down to, I didn't believe at the time that Michael Jackson had committed pseudocide. And at the time of the narrative, I didn't believe that. Well, no, what am I saying? I didn't have a reason. Let me go back to Michael Jackson. At the time of the narrative, I didn't have a reason to believe that Michael Jackson had committed suicide. Pseudocide. Sorry, pseudocide is faking one's own death. Okay, so Tupac. At the time of the narrative, I, again, had no reason to think that he had committed pseudocide. Now, JFK Jr., when the narrative of the plane, swirling down, I have probably said that I felt like I lost a friend. I can't explain it. I will never forget. You know how they say, I'll never forget where I was when something happened, when you learned about it. So when I learned about JFK Jr.'s plane accident, I was on the main line, Philadelphia. Is it Radnor? Wherever. But I was taking a Pilates class. And I don't know, it's usually like quiet in Pilates, but somebody in the office must have been listening to the news, and she came into the studio and she was like, JFK Jr., his plane, he had an accident. And we're like, oh, I'm like, whoa, what? We were almost finished class, but the instructor, she was like, oh my goodness, if you all want to end class like early, it kind of put a bummer on the moment. When you're doing Pilates, it's one of those relaxing things. So it wasn't any, relaxing anymore. So I had gathered my stuff up and I was going to heading home. And I was so sad because I turned the radio on in the car and it was confirmed, and they were just going, you know how the narrative went with all the details of it, and I was just so sad. I think I cried, right? And I was just like, oh my God, this is horrible, because I followed his life in terms of, he was People Magazine, sexiest man. He was so handsome, so a lot of us had crushes on him. I don't know if I had a crush on him, but I thought he was handsome, okay? And he was the kind of handsome that he had a universal handsomeness. Like, black women thought he was handsome, white women, everybody, every kind of woman, okay? Didn't matter. He was handsome. So that was, he was handsome, and then he was a Kennedy. So you had the whole Camelot thing, and you feel bad for someone who's orphaned the way he was. So he had a certain, he had a pull on our hearts. And I remember all the women trying to date him, and Madonna and Hannah, Daryl Hannah and Robin Givens even. Did you know? I think he allegedly dated Robin Givens. I think so. Can you fact check me? JFK Jr., did he date Robin Givens for a minute? I think he did. Let's see. Alan is saying Tupac is the title. His born name is Lassane Parish Crooks. No such thing as a halfway crook. Thank you for that. See, that's something I want to get into in talking about this. A lot of people don't understand the issues of entity names and what your born name is and your business entity name. That's why people get caught up in it's a conspiracy when it's nothing more than a legal matter. Okay? It's a legal matter, people. It's not a conspiracy. If most people, it's unfortunate that they cannot think through some of these things, especially that we're now in the information age. They are so quick to scream conspiracy when you can everybody, each one of us can take the time to do research and just take the emotionalism out of it, and we can look into it and that's why I give a lot of credit to Kev Gills, because he's helping us to see that a lot of this that we got into, it's all legal. It's all paperwork, everybody. So, that's why I wanted to put this topic on our medicinal law school page, because this has to do with law. And that I wanted to get into it, but I just love that Alan mentioned that, because that's exactly Tupac. Okay, think about that. Yeah, of course Tupac could have faked his death, because Tupac isn't a real person. Okay, Tupac is a stage name. Okay, so just saying, a lot of this is strictly legal. All right, so I'll jump back in the comments, but okay, so I was saying with JFK. Okay, so JFK Jr. When I started to hear the narratives, this is when I used to be glued to CNN, and CNN would just be playing constant loop. So I heard the scenario, and then they changed it, because they get new information, and that's when I never questioned CNN. But I recall some of the narrative being a little too, they changed it where I would I didn't know. I had something that I couldn't explain about it, that I was I wasn't suspicious, but it wasn't making sense. I'll just say that. I didn't suspect pseudocide or anything like that. I don't think I suspected foul play initially at all. I don't think anybody was talking about foul play at the time. You can let me know. But I thought it was an unfortunate error. In fact, some of the narrative started to blame him, if you remember. They started to blame JFK Jr. for the accident. If you recall the press and how they treated him, they hounded him, and they seemed to take a lot of pleasure in the fact that he failed the New York bar. Do you remember? They had fun with reporting that. And that's what I mean. I felt like I knew him. It was like I got mad at the press when they would do that. I was wondering, why are they seem to enjoy this man's failure to pass the bar. Yet we always heard that the New York bar is possibly the most difficult one. But, still, I recall there was a bit of piling on against him. So I felt a sort of protection. I don't know why. It's just this, you get caught up in a narrative, it's the culture, okay? Caught up in Camelot. So it was always some news story about the Kennedys, and then a lot of documentaries about the Kennedy curse and all of these tragedies that happened in that family. So it made you become more sympathetic to JFK Jr. So I just remember how the narrative started to blame him and say that he had an injury, like he had hurt his ankle or foot, so he had the cast, and he was learning how to fly. And some people, they're very critical when you want to learn to fly. That happened with me. My father got me flying lessons, like similar to his plane, like just a little Cherokee Warrior. And I was taking flying lessons right before I had my daughter. So when I got pregnant, it was like, well, I'm not going to, take lessons pregnant, but people were starting to tell me, how you have people in your ear and they're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing all that kind of stuff anymore. You're going to be a mom now. You should think about your safety now in a different way. So they started to just get you into this thought that, oh, learning to fly is a selfish thing. I need to hang that up. So I didn't go forward with my flying lessons, just, to a certain point. So I related to, it's kind of like, this is maybe, I'm just thinking this out, why I felt so kind of connected to him. It's like, then when I heard them criticizing him for flying, when he had, I don't think he had, did he have the cast on? I have to kind of go back and look at the narrative, but I think that maybe he had the cast off by the time he was going to, the story is he was going to a cousin's wedding in Martha's Vineyard. So he's flying from New York to Martha's Vineyard. He was licensed and instrument. He had his instrument training, so he had passed all that. So he was, okay, they were criticizing him for flying in bad weather. Dark, why did he leave at night? And it was a lot of stories coming out. You remember they were talking about how he wasn't getting along with Carolyn. It was always something where the paparazzi would try to catch them in a conversation where it looks like they were having an argument. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff. I didn't like that tabloid harassment that was happening to him. But, okay, so I didn't like the coverage post the accident. Because, again, and let me know if you recall that they were blaming him. It was like, what do you think? Tell me. Jules says, I heard he was a great pilot, had many hours of flying. Yeah, exactly. But when you read those stories, right, they give you doubt that he was a good pilot. You remember it though, right, Phyllis? Yeah. Hey, Amy, because they don't want people to know the truth about our planet. Yeah. Jules says it was the one time he didn't bring his dog. Yeah, see, that was the 2020 was when I looked at the possibility of faking his death. Because of those little details. It's a lot of details in the narrative that will cause you to question, what are we looking at here, okay? And now that a lot of us have had certain other experiences, compartmentalized experiences that, like I'm saying, we don't talk about everything we may know because it's just not necessary. I'm not in the ABCs, okay? And I know some people might whisper. Listen, I try to be pretty open with you all. I'm just Jennifer. I feel like I'm just a regular person. I'm as regular as I feel. I feel I'm very regular, but maybe some people don't. But I feel very regular. Very, very regular, okay? But some people, whisper, the whisperers, and they may think that I'm in the ABC group, that I'm an agent. And whispers have happened. I used to live in St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, and I would walk around. Do you remember when the cargo pants were big? So I loved cargo pants. And I would wear cargo pants and maybe a little shirt or something where, my arms are out and people think, you work out. I used to work out a bit, but not big muscles, but just, lean arms. And people would whisper. They thought that when I lived in St. Croix, they thought that I was with the alphabet group that deals with the pow-pows and when you take your pills, those guys, they thought I was one of them. So people, I didn't know, they would act really weird around me when I lived in St. Croix. I didn't know if it was just because they called me a continental. I don't know, I just thought they were treating me different because it's like if you're not from a neighborhood, I'm not from the neighborhood. But they would whisper because they thought I was an alphabet person. And all this time, right, I would just not know this. And I was like, this is crazy. These people are thinking that I'm an alphabet person. Tube tops. Juan is here. Hey, Juan. Thanks for hanging out, Juan. Oh, this is awesome. Tina said, yes, I had the cargo pants. Yes. And I guess I'm 5'10", and I'm wearing cargo pants and like a cutoff shirt, whatever, t-shirt or whatever. And they're looking at my arms and, I'm walking around a lot. And, the whispers would start. And, they thought I was some sort of agent. So, I have people that think I am. I don't know what to do with that. I'm not. Okay? I'm not, for the record. Yes. So, Anyway. When I started reading... Oh, no. Okay, let me just go back to when they had the funeral for JFK Jr. at the big church in New York. I can't remember. The big Catholic church in New York City. So, St. Peter's, right? St. Peter's Cathedral. So, I watched it, and, I cried, and it was sad. Sarah McLachlan, remember she sang In the Arms of an Angel? Oh my gosh. And when they sang, didn't they do Danny Boy? They did a good Irish funeral there, right? So Danny Boy, that gets me every time. Oh my goodness. Danny Boy will make me cry. I don't care if it's on bagpipes or someone sings it. That song just grips me. What about you? Joseph O'Sullivan is here. Yay! Alan, what did you say? They definitely don't like cameras from my experience. Yeah? Yes. Hey, Joseph. Thank you for Jen's a white hat. Yes, I am. So then I get over, I grieved my public grieving about JFK Jr. Okay, so fast forward 2020. 2020. I got time, right? 2020, I got time. And when I mean I got time, I got time. I'm up in New York City working the flim-flam-demic. I'm frontline, y'all. Frontline every time. So I'm up there on the front lines looking at all the lies. I'm trying to tell people they're lying to you. They were only hating me more and more. As I was trying to say, no, we're not overrun, everybody. I got receipts on my phone. I got receipts on my phone where I went down whole corridors of empty patient rooms, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, they're lying. When it first happened and they were telling you the ERs are overflowing, I'm like, no, I'm going out the ER door almost every shift to get my Uber Eats, and it's empty, y'all. But then on the patient television, I saw nothing but fear and panic. And I became a big enemy to the Black Boule, to all of them, okay? But especially the Black Boule. They did not like me. They do not like me, and I don't like them either. So it's a mutual thing. But anyway, yeah, so I was up there in New York, y'all. And I had time because the city was shut down. I was walking down streets empty, like the rapture had happened. So I knew something. I have notebooks of diaries and logs, star date, whatever, 2020. Plan flim flam flimmick, New York City. So I was there, y'all. I was there. I was putting on I didn't comply with the mask. So I was definitely not a favorite. People just instantly stopped liking me. We would get along. We were cool. When I decided I wasn't going to play the game with the masking, it was like, yeah. One nurse I was really cool with, she told me to put a mask on, and I just simply said no. That's how I would talk to them. They were like, aren't you going to put a mask on, Jennifer? I would just say no. And that's all, folks, no. And then it became like you just saw them kind of like recoil. Like, what? You're not going to wear a mask? No, I don't wear them. And I just smile. And yeah, one nurse, she told me, well then, look, I'm not going to be around you because you're not going to make me sick, she told me. She said, you're not going to make me sick. I can't afford it or something. I was like, okay. And she stopped speaking to me. Actually, I would come into work, she stopped speaking. It was interesting. And then one of the unit secretaries, I would always come in and give her a nice hug. She was one of those women, like you just wanted to hug her. She felt like an auntie, And I was always hugging everybody, especially when I come in. I'm a hugger. Y'all come in. Come on. Lean in. I'm a hugger. So when I would lean in, like, I'm not doing the mask thing, so everybody's like, When they're offering the flu shots, I go, no thank you, because they're like, they gather around a nursing station, they're like putting the flu shots on the table, they got the list of the employees who's on shift. Hey Jen, we got your flu shot here, you want to take it? I go, no thank you, like that. I do it, real friendly. I don't make a big deal. I go, no thank you. And everybody looks. And I'm like, I don't want it. Thanks though. And then I just skip off to my loo. But this made me public enemy number 1. Because nobody was joining me in my resistance. So it was very lonely. But I had a lot of time on my hands to look into things. And that's when it all started, right there. The flim-flam-demic. I got time, cuz. So, I don't know what it was. But I wanted to look into JFK Jr. again. Now, let me back up. Back in 2000 and Give me a minute. Not 16, 15. Let's say 15. I think 2015 or 14. I had on my old YouTube channel that has been scrubbed. Do we have a trillionaire that can buy Google? Just asking for a friend. Does anybody know a trillionaire? I don't think a billionaire can do it. I think we need a trillionaire, quadruplelaire, right? Chameleonaire. Do we have a chameleonaire out there, out here, that can buy Google, please? Asking for a friend. I digress. Okay, so when I had my original YouTube channel that I used to post my traveling and stuff, if anybody knows that old channel, it was fun, right? So I was invited by Prime Minister to become a digital soldier. Come on out here. Let's start getting some information shared. Let's just start connecting. Like-minded people. He gave an invitation. I took him up on the offer. I already had a YouTube channel. I was trying to be a blogger, kind of like, on the side. And I was with a little blogging team, little mob of bloggers. And I was learning some of the ins and outs of blogging. So someone suggested, start a YouTube channel. Okay, do YouTube videos. I didn't know. So I just did them, and I wasn't trying to get, engagement. It was mainly for training and practicing, they said. Just start talking about things, anything, if you drink a certain tea, but you want to get used to speaking to a camera. Because somehow they knew that we were entering into this phase where a lot of us would begin to talk to cameras. And talking to a camera is a lot different than talking to a friend if we're across from each other having tea or coffee, right? But this technology makes it feel like we could be talking to each other over a hot beverage, especially if you are also on the stream. You're on a camera that we are interfacing. So we've entered this new reality. And I was learning how to navigate through it. So someone suggested that even if you want to become a stronger public speaker, which a lot of things require that you speak in front of audiences. I worked in big pharma, that kind of stuff. And speaking was something that you wanted to get, better at for meetings and things like that. You might be on a committee of some sort, even in nursing, because you get invited to sit on committees and different things in nursing. So I thought it would come in handy to practice speaking. And I took the person up. They said, for 30 days, make a video. I was like, that's easy. So I did it. And they said, by the 30 days, when it's over, you will be comfortable speaking to a camera. So fine, I took the offer up. And I just posted things like, I did a goofy run up the, art museum steps in Philadelphia, and my daughter's filming it, and I've got these boots on, and when I get to the top, I do the Rocky thing, and it's just so goofy, and she put the Rocky music to it, and I do this thing, and I think she froze it, so when I'm jumping up, that was on my channel. And my trips, because I would always edit videos with music for all the travel I did. And when I started making content videos every day to practice speaking, I happened to do one that was a rant video. And you all know how I rant. It was a rant video that really was more of a rant video. it really became this big of a rant. And I was ranting about they were beginning to require nurses to take flu shots to keep your job. And it was starting, the walls were starting to close in, okay? I was cool out in Los Angeles at Cedars-Sinai. What I would do is when they would say, do you want to take the flu shot, Jennifer? I would say, no, thank you. And they would say, okay. Yeah, okay, we're going to get you next flu season. We got something for you. So what they had instituted for us is that if you refuse to take the flu shot, you would have to go to flu school. Okay, flu school. Let me put it in the chat. Flu school. So, flu school was on your, your work computer programming thing. They had set up something called flu school. And you had to go in that flu school and you had to get programmed and then answer questions, and you had to get them right. So then I did flu school. But then I was starting to hear, because I read nursing publications, I was really into the nurse world. I was hearing about other nurses in other states that were being fired for not taking the flu shot. And if they didn't take the flu shot, there was the threat of having to wear a mask for the entire flu season. So I'm going to tell you, when I heard, it's something about me and the way I'm hardwired, something about that was just not going to do. I was so, okay, I'm getting angry just thinking about it. When I was reading in these different various pieces of content that nurses were getting fired and they were having to wear a mask for all of flu season, I was like, oh, no. Hell to the no. Not me. So I was starting to look at, like, I'm going to have to think about something else, another profession, because if they start doing this, I'm not going to be able to comply with this. And I couldn't find many people that were on board. It really feels like a lonely thing, right? So I happened to, this particular day, I went onto my live stream or whatever, and I ranted about this situation, forcing nurses to mandatory flu shots. That might have been the title. And this video, when I tell you, it was being shared so much. Now, I didn't even know. I was so out of the loop. I was getting like these messages on Facebook and on my cell phone. I was getting these messages like, Jen, oh my God, I saw you on Alex Jones. That's how much this video was shared. This is from an account that probably had 31 subscribers. Okay, I'm not even kidding. I was just using this channel to practice speaking to a camera. So this video was shared in all these nursing forums, like Facebook nursing. Like, I didn't know they had nurses that were like really angry and protesting this stuff. So they had groups that were starting to form, and this video was being shared in those groups. And at the time, YouTube had it where you could send a message, a private message to someone. Did you all know that? Oh my gosh, they're nanny botting Jenny. Okay, girl. Hey, Jenny, welcome. We have a nanny bot, sorry. So, okay, so I'm hearing that my video was shared on Alex Jones, because one of the nurses I work with, she was like a conspiracy theorist like me, and so she's telling me, she was like my little sister. She's the one that got me into kombucha brewing and everything, so she was like a hippie like me, and she was like, oh my God, Jen, I saw you on Alex Jones. And I was like, what? And now I knew if she said it, it was real, because she listened to Alex Jones. So I was like, wait a minute, why am I on Alex Jones? Well, apparently, I think it was the health ranger. I don't know, allegedly. Don't come for me, whatever, whoever you are. But I have a problem with you and Alex Jones, okay? Because somehow they took my video and shared it on their platform. I think it was on their website, and it was like, I guess they said crazy nurse that refuses mandatory flu shots. No, it was a nice title, but they had, crafted the title like nurse who it was something dramatic. And so there I am ranting with my afro, and they had my entire transcript. So they used my video. They took the transcript and created an article. So from everything I was saying. And so, okay, gave me no credit for it, I guess. I don't know. But they didn't ask me. It was kind of like, I got a little issue with it, but okay. So anyway, I was like, that's really odd. And then all of a sudden my email starts blowing up and people are like, we want you to head up this, so come and be a part of our group. And it was almost like they wanted me to fight the battle, fight the good fight. And I was like, yeah, I'll just make the video. I didn't know it was going to turn into this, but I'll think about things. But I'm with you all the way, okay? I just don't want to be the leader of anything. This was just accidental. But the thing that was really big that came out of that video was Robert Kennedy Jr. contacted me. That's when you could send messages privately over YouTube. Yes. If anybody remembers those days when you could send messages to people. He sent me a message. And he encouraged me to keep fighting for freedom like that, especially when it came to jabs. Now, at the time, I had no idea. I didn't follow him. I didn't know that he was such a crusader when it comes to that stuff. I didn't know at the time. I was just like, this is interesting. Wow, Robert Kennedy Jr. is like telling me, he was like, just keep on. Like, it was almost like he was like, just like fight this like even more. I don't know what that meant. But I felt like I let him down though. I don't know. Did I? Just asking if anybody knows him. Just say, did she let you down? Do you remember her? I don't know. But anyway, he contacted me and just encouraged me. So that meant a lot to me to think that, wow, people really, I'm not alone in thinking that this isn't fair to force people to take jabs. So I was already ranting about that stuff before 2020 hit. Okay. So that is what I'm saying. Like, we just have these compartmentalized experiences, okay? So back to JFK Jr. When I had the time to look into the narrative, all I did was looked at People magazine, everybody. People magazine, that's it. And I was reading it, and something just stuck out. It was weird. First of all, I didn't know that he got married at a black church, African church in Cumberland Island. So that stuck out to me because I was really into my critical race kind of black liberation mindset. We were really into the race, remember? Like from the Obama administration on. So I was kind of race driven I would say I looked through the lens of race with a lot of things. It's different now. I still look at it through a lens of race, but it's in a different way now. We've talked about my journey through this whole race thing, and we're all still moving through the race whatever we're about to embark on, when we can get past it. But until we get past it, I talk about it freely. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, so when I read this JFK Jr. article, and it says he was married at this African church, one-room church on Cumberland Island in Georgia. I didn't even know about Cumberland Island. And I, lived in Georgia all these years. So I was like really intrigued. It was like a red flag had kind of gone off. And I said, this is an interesting thing. I want to look into it more. So being that I have that research, like wanting to jump into things, and I can kind of go to the extremes of wanting to know. I have a curiosity, and especially when it comes to a mystery, maybe like just something that requires me to read and connect. I like that. So it's right up my alley, as they say. So the being married at the black church was like all that I needed to become more interested in his story. And I hadn't thought about him, much. It had been, years since he so-called died. So I then remembered, I think maybe in the People magazine article, they mentioned that he was a publisher, that he had his magazine. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Whatever happened to his magazine? That's when it got really weird. So I had never purchased his magazine. I kind of thought it was more, I wasn't real political. So my opinion was that it was if you're really into politics. It seemed like something I would like, because I really did I love magazines at the time. How about you? I just had a magazine thing. I always had tons of magazines in my home. I would find pretty ways to display them. And I liked all magazines. I liked People. I loved InStyle, Vogue. I loved magazines. Just all the home decorating magazines, Veranda, House and Garden. I would even read British House and Garden. I was a magazine person. But for some reason, I never purchased his magazine, George. But I thought it was fascinating, when I followed the story when he started the magazine, and I think I've even flipped through some of it. I liked the way it was laid out. It was like the rock and roll politics kind of vibe. And I also thought he was probably going to run for president one day. Maybe you did too. I thought he was. They always courted him to say that he was. And then he admitted that he wanted to do Senate seat of New York, right? Yeah, Hillary. Same seat Hillary got, right? So not to get into a Hillary discussion, but you already know. If you know, you know. So I then said, okay, let me try to buy a George magazine now. And I wanted to buy the one that dealt with 2020. Do you see what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, I'm on this path now, because I found out he was married at a black church. And I was very curious. I wonder why a guy like him, who is of an elite family, who could have gotten married, Martha's Vineyard, but definitely not a black church, a one-room black church in Georgia. Something about that, because the wife was this blonde, New York, successful, very thin, working for Calvin Klein. She was really a society girl. So I was just thinking, how did he get her to agree to get married? I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. I was like, whose idea was this, first of all? Was it her idea? Because she doesn't really strike me as the kind of gal who would want to get married at a black church in Georgia. I'm sorry, y'all. I picture her as a gal that would be married in the Hamptons or something, right? So again, I found this narrative to be a little bit red flaggish. You see? So I'm now on the trail. I'm like, who is this? What is going on right now? And I got time today, cuz. So then I'm like, okay, I see that he has this magazine, his George magazine, that actually references 2020. And we are now in 2020. And I'm wondering, okay, so I go on to try to purchase the magazine. Well, everyone, put on your seatbelts. The magazine was maybe $100 and something, almost $200. Okay, I see a bot. Let me see if I could hide this channel. I'll hide that channel. Sorry about that, bot. And let's do let's see if the person goes away. I thought I could get rid of the whole thing. Hopefully you can't see the bot. I didn't think bots came into this classroom, but anyway. Okay, back to my... Now I am on the trail of this JFK Jr. narrative. Okay, so I was like, okay, that's not weird. That's not weird at all that this magazine is $100 and almost $200. Okay, maybe because it's just a thing. I'm not somebody that knows about these things. I'm like, okay, eBay, that maybe that's normal. So I said, okay, let me call my mom and see what she thinks. I was like, Mom, this George magazine, I'm really curious. I really want to buy it. And I told her how much it was. And she was like, well, I was surprised. Well, if you know my mom, she's kind of like, yeah, buy it. I'm like, really? You think I should buy it? It's almost $200. But I think I was like, it's a collector's item, maybe, I don't know, right? So I was still holding off. I was still like, that's a splurge. I can't justify this. So then, the next day, everybody, are you ready? Are you ready? I really think it was the next day. I happened to look on the eBay thing because I think I put a set thing that I could watch how much, because it might have been a few issues of the magazine and it was going for different prices, right? But I was looking at the one that was like what I was interested in, like price range wise. So then I look at it again. It's $300. And I was like, no, that's not weird. It's not weird at all. Huh? Is it? Is it weird? So I was like, okay, now it makes me really want this George magazine. I was like, I really want this magazine. So then I think I opened up the thing again, maybe another day. Are you ready? It was now $1,000. Like some kind of either 1,000. By the time I was like, you must be kidding me, it went up to like $3,000 or $5,000 for one copy of this magazine. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Were you following this back in 2020? Because I was. And this is the kind of thing that, I'm not talking about it. I'm just in my hotel room because I was living up in New York City working the flim-flam-demic. So I'm in my hotel room and I'm like, this is getting weird. But it was like, who can I talk to? Because at the time I didn't know you guys, okay? I'm here like thinking there's something weird here that I'm just kind of embarking on. I don't know what I'm embarking on, but something's going on. So I'm keeping it to myself. And when it went up to like $3,000 to $5,000, I was like, what's happening? Now another alarm is going off for me. Because I'm like, I watched this magazine go from 100 and something to like $5,000 within like a short, like few days. So that's when the antennas really went up. So then I said, maybe it's because it's 2020 and we have this like big thing going on. I was like, what is it? So then I started searching on YouTube and just reading as many articles about him, his death, and then what happened afterwards. Oh, that's another thing. Let me go back to when I was initially listening to the news cycles when he passed away. The thing that didn't make sense, if you all remember, is that they had this narrative that he was cremated. And the way they couldn't find the plane, and that's when I started wondering, something's weird here. But I just didn't know enough, but something didn't feel right about the narrative. And especially when they said he was cremated and ashes were out to sea, I was like, yeah, but I thought he was a Catholic. I think Catholics don't do that. So it was just all these questions back then. But again, I didn't have enough to be suspicious. So when I went into 2020 and now these things started popping up, I was thinking, okay, what was it? Okay, I read that he was buried on, like, okay, at sea. So they named the SS, the big Navy vessel. And that was weird to me. I said, without knowing a lot, I was like, how did he get like a burial at sea on a big naval vessel when he wasn't in the Navy? He wasn't in the military at all. I knew his dad was a former Navy man, but I didn't know that would translate to a son being buried at sea. So that was strange, because even though he was the son of the president, I didn't think they would do that. But this is what got me. They said it was only 17 Kennedy family members on that naval vessel. They said 17. Now, I had no idea that the number 17 was significant to anybody. But it was just the fact that it was 17. Do you see what I'm saying? I felt that was an odd number to say. I was just like scratching my head, like 17 family members? That's weird. Why not 15 or 20? Why 17? And then I was like, and the Kennedy family is huge. Why would only 17 Kennedy family members be at this burial at sea? I was like, it's just too many weird things. And then another thing about the narrative was, like, they said that at the time of this burial at sea, there was the SS JFK was suddenly in the area. And somehow these two naval vessels had some sort of like engagement for this ceremony. Like the SS JFK did some kind of tribute thing. So I was like, that's odd. And then it just proceeded. Like, I think what convinced me, okay, when I realized that it was so many weird things going on with the bodies being found and then the burial at sea, and I started looking up more things, and I think I found this. Oh yeah, I think one of the first people I found was this gentleman. I can't think of his name right now, but he had a channel just devoted to the George magazine. that was called like the something to the future, Guide to the Future 2020. So this man, his whole YouTube channel was devoted to this thing. And I stumbled on it, and now that's when I knew something was up. Because he was bringing up different subjects. He was going through the magazine, and by that time I was able to grab the magazine online, so I was able to read it a little bit, and I saw that Bill Gates and Hillary and all these people were being referenced. So it was real strange. Okay. And then when I realized he and Trump were friends, and he had said some things about Trump being president, I read all these various things, and I was like, okay, all right, the alarm bells are going off, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, now I'm watching this guy, and then I found a woman who, she also covered that George magazine Guide to the Future 2020. Now, I loved her because she was like this young woman, like she had brunette hair, and she would curse like a sailor, and I was like, she's fun. And see, the guy that had the other channel, he was very buttoned up, and he was presenting the, very like stoic almost, and then she was like cussing, and I was like, wow, she's a lot to take, but I like her. And do you remember, Jules remembers her. Do you remember her name? Oh my God, I love how we can now like put these things together. Jules, if you remember her name, because not a lot of people might know her, because I was hesitant to share her with someone, because it was someone later on that was asking me something, and I said, oh, I don't know if he would like her because she's a little too strong language, I'm able to listen to people that are harsh. I don't know about you all. I like people that just have different type of personalities. And yeah, she was really a lot. But between her and the other guy, I knew that this magazine being called Guide to the Future, and it was for 2020, and it dealt with Bill Gates, the same guy that's talking about Georgia Guidestone depopulation type of stuff. And I knew what he was doing with the jabs. And then now I put together that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a big proponent of exposing the jab industry, and he was very against the mandatory mandating of them. So now I'm putting all of this together. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has literally contacted me and encouraged me to keep fighting against mandatory jabs. We're now in a global pandemic, and I'm learning that JFK Jr. could have faked his death now. I'm like, uh-oh. So I was really like, I gotta talk to somebody. I said, I gotta tell somebody that I think JFK Jr. faked his death. And so I was like, who do I tell? I tell my mom, because she's the only one I can trust right now who wouldn't laugh at me, possibly. I wasn't sure. I was like, she might think that I need to go and take a little vacation from all this researching and being up there in New York City working the pandemic. But this is what happened that really was, it blew me away. Now, I had never talked to my mother about JFK Jr. since like his death or something, or when I was talking about the magazine thing. But I mean, it wasn't like he was a subject. Now, my mother loves Trump, okay? So she already was into the Trump thing. And I would often laugh, she was cute. I was like, my mom likes Trump, y'all. What am I going to do? I like him too. He's funny. But I couldn't tell anybody because everything was all, don't you like him or we will cancel you. So I was like, Mom, guess what? I said, I've been looking into JFK Jr. And I was like, I don't think he's dead. I think he might have faked his death. And you know what my mom said? She was like, I think so too. I was like, what? She said, yeah, I think he did. I think he faked his death. And I was like, you think that? I was like, how long have you thought that? I was like, is it me? Am I just late to this? Or wait a minute, you think this? Because I had gotten her an iPad, so I said, oh boy, she might be digging into conspiracies. But I was like, really? And she just like was real matter of fact about it. She was like, yeah, I guess it's just that it wasn't so far-fetched. And maybe she remembers the inconsistencies in the story. His body or whatever, things not being found. I don't know. Then she was thinking maybe because of what? I don't know. She didn't really tell me, but I was like, okay. And then I happened to call another friend of mine who I would indulge in various conspiracy theories with. You know, the friend that you have from college, you know. So I called him up because I was like, okay, maybe my mom's just giving me a softball. Maybe she really doesn't believe this. She's just going along. So I called my friend. And I happened to I was like, I got to run it by him just to test the waters. Am I really tripping? So I happened to tell him, I was like, look, listen, I've been doing some research into JFK Jr. He was like, really? I was like, yeah. Something's up with him. Like, I've been looking at the George magazine. Did you know he had a George magazine 2020 Guide to the Future? I was like, it's very weird. I was like, he was friends with Trump, and I was like, and I don't know. He was married at a black church in Georgia. I'm thinking, I really want to go. I was like, I want to go to Cumberland Island. Would you come hang out with? He was like, yeah, let's go. And I was like, yeah, I want to go there now. I just never knew about the place. It sounds amazing. And I said, I don't think I told him this first conversation when I kind of started the thing out. I think I followed up maybe the next time I talked to him. I was like, listen, let me tell you something. I really want to see what you think about this, but I think it's possible that JFK Jr. faked his death and is not dead. And he was like, yeah, I think so too. And I was like, hold up. Now my mother thinks he faked his death and he thinks he faked his death, my friend. I was like, so this isn't very far-fetched? Because I was scared to say it. I was scared to let this come out. But I was like, okay, so why would he fake his death? That began the whole rabbit trail of why would he fake his death? And then I was able to find a reason for, I've started really doing the research. I was like, okay, well, there is a motive that Hillary Clinton wanted to be the senator of New York because it was a pathway to the White House. And I found ample evidence that JFK Jr. would have been running for that exact same Senate seat against Hillary Clinton. So now I'm like, okay, I see a reason he's a threat of some sort. And if he's friends with Trump, I was like, he's a threat to some circle of people. And his father was assassinated for talking about the alphabet people and dismantling the alphabets. And it didn't work out well for him. So I'm thinking, his father, that alone, that rabbit hole, and just to think, okay, this is a man who was hounded and piled on by the media. He was going to run for the same Senate seat as Hillary Clinton, which means that he was going to do a pathway to the White House. Why else would he become senator of New York. That's the direct pathway to the White House. It's a lot of people wanted him to run for president. If you recall, Oprah Winfrey had him on her show, and she asked, in a very coy way, so are you going to run for president one day? You know how they would all do that to him? Every time he was on a talk show, it was always like, so, do you think you might want to walk in your dad's shoes? And, he had a very, he had a good media training. And he would do what most people do, be very coy, I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You know how they would do. So then I had more alarm bells going off. I'm like, okay, I see a clear reason why JFK Jr. would want to commit pseudocide, because his life is not safe. If he's going against Hillary Clinton, by now I had already heard a lot about Hillary Clinton. I'd known that she had the nickname Killary, and that Vince Foster, and I'll clump the Clinton Foundation, the Clintons, okay? So it was from the Rose Law Firm days of Arkansas. It was from Vince Foster's suicide in the park, where he shot himself in the back of the head. Okay, and then it was like Ron Brown going on a commerce trip to Croatia, was it somewhere, Yugoslavia, wherever, and what happened to Ron Brown, and who else, Seth Rich, all these various people. It was, how many was in the body? They called it the Clinton body count. So I'm thinking, okay, not far-fetched that this guy was in danger, running against Hillary and the Clinton crime syndicate. So then I said, okay, I could see something. Maybe he is in danger. So then I started to find other content creators, and I happened to stumble upon some old recordings of Field McConnell. And I was listening to these. It was hard to hear some of these, replays of whatever. But they started talking about the airplane. And whoever would check out JFK Jr.'s plane for him, because he wasn't just going up in the plane like you and I would do. He had to have enhanced security still. So he had some form of enhanced security and a man that was looking out for him, checking out his plane every time. So one of these times it was stated that this man had found an explosive, a C, is it C4, C5? Can someone tell me in the chat? I don't remember which C number, but it was the plastique. Is that the plastique? Found it with an altitude device attached. So that would mean, for anybody, altitude device meaning however it was set for altitude when the plane climbed, then that would be the altitude that the device would react, the explosive device. C4, thank you, Golden Amethyst and Juan and Sean. I knew Sean would know the C number. Why am I thinking C5? So C4, is that also called plastique? Let me know. So anyway, girl like me should know these things probably, right? Haha. Yeah, Sean, I beat you to it. So yeah, anyway, that was more confirmation of things that I'm going to look into this a little bit more. There's something here. It's more than too many coincidences here. And I just happened to just start really researching this thing. And as as it was, then connecting with Prime, and then connecting with, Jerry, 107, need I say more? So, you like that, Sean? Yeah, a girl like me should know those things. I can laugh, okay? I can laugh through it. But, okay, so I then had more than enough reason, and like I said, I won't say too much more, that we probably have a few people that have done this. And let me go ahead and read something that I pulled up in terms of legal. When we think about legal, when it's called faking one's death, is it illegal? Not technically illegal. However, where people get into trouble is if, you probably already know. I can't look at the chat right now as I'm reading this. Gosh. And I'm going to learn how to share images on this OBS. Okay, so let me read from Mental Floss. Pseudocide, faking your own death, is not technically illegal. However, to fake your own death, you'd most likely need to break several laws. Pseudocide isn't inherently a crime, but it involves so many built-in frauds that it's virtually impossible to legally fake your own death. Why go to the trouble of faking your own death? People may commit pseudocide so they can collect life insurance money, evading outstanding arrest warrants, get out of paying off school. I guess they didn't know about Biden and his student loan forgiveness program, right? Amnesty. But anyway, if you don't want to pay Sally Mae, even a car, home loans, or simply start over with a new identity, leaving behind problems, relationships, and work. Although no federal or state statutes ban pseudocide, someone who fakes his or her death, yes, they use the pronouns his or her. Take it up with Mental Floss, okay? His or her death may commit crimes such as conspiracy, fraudulently collecting life insurance money, evading taxes from that place that is headquartered in Puerto Rico that I've heard is not federal. Okay, I digress. Having a spouse file a false police report, forging a death certificate. You mean based on the birth certificate that is not legal, the bond that you have us in? Slavery? So if you forged a death certificate, that would be legal for you guys? Okay. Or delinquency on loan payments. And although someone can technically pull off pseudocide without breaking the law, he or she, again, those are the pronouns they chose, won't be able to legally establish a new identity in the United States. Interesting. Government agencies like the Social Security Administration and the DMV, as well as companies like banks and mortgage lenders, require valid proof of your identity. If you're using a false identity, you're committing fraud. Author Elizabeth Greenwood explores pseudocide and the disappearance industry in her upcoming book, Playing Dead, A Journey Through the World of Death Fraud. Greenwood describes both sides of the equation, including consultants who help people disappear, as well as private detectives who investigate people suspected of faking their own deaths in order to make false claims. Death and taxes, it seems, have more in common than simple inevitability. There's also plenty of money involved in both. So let me just take, without going on a law, some sort of legally stuff, I already see some things I want to just repeat here. Okay. Now, apparently pseudocide is not a big conspiracy theory, so we can get that out of the way. They have consultants that will help a person disappear. So when I started to delve into more conversations about JFK Jr. and the possibility of pseudocide, people or a person explained that he could be ferried off into the protection, just like we know about what is it called? You all know. Protection, when you go into secret protection. So there's a whole industry, everybody. So let's really think about that. That's really clear that this is not conspiracy. There are consultants and there is a industry as it's described here. The disappearance industry. So the disappearance industry would involve the military. And again, JFK Jr. was given a naval burial at sea. How is that? Witness protection. Thank you. How is that he would have that type of burial? So when you think about the Navy and how the Navy and how the various agencies that are set up under the Navy, I won't get into the whole alphabet agency, OSS and these things that started the CIA even. Oh, I said it. I didn't mean to say it. Sorry. Okay, I got to be more coded. Okay, so the Naval Department would be the perfect agency to provide witness protection for someone so high, in like highly visible person, and we know from doing studies into the 1800s, early 1900s, they had various ways to disguise people. Now, and back then in the 1800s, that's something Kev Gills had just covered in Kevro University. All of the, like in the war times, World War I and II, they had artists, like they had sculptors that would create all sort of facial prosthetics. That's back in the early 1900s, everyone. So imagine now the ability to create prosthetics. You can actually change the race of a person with prosthetics. So it's not hard to see that this can be done easily. With a person who comes from a background such as JFK Jr., if he is now being protected by a group of people who have the best interest of the people, I'll say, and especially fighting against the people that took his father down, that group There are, factions of people that war. And a lot of us know more about that. But it's not hard to see if anybody were just looking at it from just a little glance. It's just not far-fetched. So I was able to put together a timeline from 2020, and things mixed in there. You all know some of the things have been public, and with my background of having certain things that I've been through and have been privy to, we compartmentalize a lot. But this particular thing is interesting now because of what I want to get into in terms of learning law. So, when you're born in the United States, I'll say, and you have a birth certificate, we have now learned that our birth certificate is basically a bond that is traded on the stock exchange. And we've learned that we have a trust. Each person has a trust. And if you are, someone like from the Kennedy family, there's a trust there, right? So if JFK Jr. was in danger and needed to be protected, then they would use the means of legally, if you have a birth certificate and you're being traded as commerce, a bond person, a bonded person, you see, what would it matter that you get out of that legally? And remember, JFK Jr. is a lawyer. So we were put into this bondage through laws and trickery, contracts, birth certificate is a contract. And if that can be broken through knowing laws, that you could go from a dead state, which that's what people are that have birth certificates, especially, I would say, black people. If anybody is designated black, that means dead in law. But everybody is out to sea. With the birth certificate, they look at it as like cargo, basically. That's the Admiralty Maritime Law. And I have a very personal experience with Admiralty Maritime Law. So my background, having had a very big incident happen and Admiralty Maritime Law factored in, it's really easy for me to understand this whole thing about the birth certificates and being designated as a dead cargo. And then if you have black, like I said, that's dead in law. So then if we're talking about a person just basically not being in bondage to this contract of a birth certificate, because it wasn't done in a legal fashion where you had consent, informed consent. This was your parents doing this and they didn't know. So all of us got duped by this whole system. So if JFK Jr. would take a status of being dead and a bonds, servant, a bond slave, basically legally, which I don't know what his status was at birth, but I'm just assuming, I'm just saying for the sake of, if you have a birth certificate in America, and then you realize now that this is a corporate thing. So the way the country was usurped and set up in a corporate type of thing. So then, why is it so hard for some people to understand that you can change your status and you can then go from an artificial law, an artificial corporate law, to now a living, common, organic, natural law of the land. So you go from the sea to the land. And with JFK Jr., he died at sea, right? Duh, okay, I don't want to say duh. I'm just saying, do you hear? I know you all understand. He died at sea. That's the perfect cover for this. And then made alive on the land, common law. Sovereign citizenship. But not even, I don't know what that, listen, those are his receipts. That's his business. But I'm just saying, technicality wise, legal ease kind of stuff. Not to get into the deeper parts of it. We'll start to connect all of these narratives. But what I'm saying is, again, that anybody could do that. And technically it could be called pseudocide, faking your death. But if you're dead already, according to your status, what are you faking? You were already a bond slave with your birth certificate. So if you go to the natural organic law of God, the supreme law, and you reclassify yourself, then you don't have to do any of this. And of course, in terms of JFK Jr., there's no need to do any life insurance fraud. So that's out of it. Taxes, that's not an issue. His spouse, she was with him. So you're not leaving anybody behind. Someone made a comment that his dog wasn't on that plane. And the dog was always traveling with them. So it was no excuse given for why the dog didn't go on the trip. So, and then we know he didn't have financial problems, right? So there's no other motive other than to become a reclassified person and to go into protection, to be able to do things and move differently. So I think it would be good. See, I want to get a book list together. Maybe I'll go on Amazon and do a little wish list, because I know a lot of you want to do little tips or whatever. But if anybody wants to do that, I might put a wish list up on Amazon. I'd like to get this book here by Elizabeth Greenwood, Playing Dead, A Journey Through the World of Death Fraud. Now, I have a problem with calling it fraud when we look at someone like a JFK Jr. or Michael Jackson. I haven't even dealt with the Michael Jackson or Tupac stuff, but I'm just dealing with the JFK Jr. thing right now. So this is interesting, again, because you realize that there's an industry called the disappearance industry. And there are private detectives that work to find people. So you're being hunted in certain type of instances. And you have to understand, so if anybody has accomplished pseudocide and reclassification, they're going to need to be protected. Because if somebody's looking for them, say, IRS, or if they did it for those reasons, then they would then need to, watch out, because you might have a bounty hunter internationally, wherever you would move, that would try to find you. And that's what happened to the doctor from the hospital I worked at that I referenced earlier, Chestnut Hill Hospital. I worked in a department where a doctor had, he had pulled off pseudocide. However, he was found. So I think his wife, even though she grieved his death and everything, I don't know what happened. She may have been tipped off that something wasn't right. And I think she hired a private detective. And that's how they found him, living down in Mexico. So if you do this thing right, you just have to do it right. Okay. And it's just... crisis actors. There you are. And when you start looking into history and realizing that we have all these people playing the same people playing different roles. And for us that have looked into the 1800s, it's just like, there it is. It's nothing that you can't understand when you start researching this stuff. It's really a matter of legal precedent. It's just legal issues, reclassification, and once you start having standing in common law, you are like a new resurrected person. That's truly like a resurrection. So that's, I haven't been dealing with it a lot, but I may be dealing with this issue more, especially if I get this book. I would love to deal with it that way. So we'll see about that, okay? I'll keep you posted. And let's see, what else? Dave Walker's here. Dave, welcome. How you doing? Thank you. Alan, yeah, Face Off. I haven't seen Face Off, but I bet it's interesting. Oh yeah, I bet it is. Makes me want to watch it now. Tina says, we've been having that dog, the bounty hunter, around your small town a couple of weeks ago. He's been around here a few times recently, but not sure who he's looking for. Yeah, you have people that they are on a high level of how they can find people. I know somebody, my brother actually played basketball for a guy that he had, high security clearances, and he could find anybody within like 24 hours. And I mean it. If you lost somebody, he could find you. He found, that's all I'll say. Okay, but anyway. So now dealing with Michael Jackson. Okay, because I'll just leave the JFK Jr. thing. I think we kind of dealt with, it's motive there. It's definitely resources. And it makes sense when you start looking at just legal paperwork. Everybody's not getting into the whole conspiracy theory. It's legal stuff. Okay? That's all it is. Very simple. And Michael Jackson now. Again, I didn't have a reason to suspect anything other than he had some kind of weird situation with a doctor living in his home, and he got the milk, and yeah, it was a bad deal. But I believed the narrative. But then later on, I started to hear more things about him. Now that I was open to the JFK thing, that opened up, okay, even though I heard Tupac, I heard the like I said earlier, I heard the rumor mill around Tupac, and people saying that he was in Cuba and all that stuff. And when I was in Cuba, I talked to a few people, and I have to say, they're really, really into Tupac down there. They have murals on walls. The Airbnb that I stayed at, the man there had a big tribute to Tupac, huge, in the house that we rented. So Cuba is really checking for Tupac in a way that makes you scratch your head. Okay, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, if you spent some time in Cuba, not just in Havana, but in the countryside, you will see murals with Tupac. Did anybody know that? So the Tupac thing is just the same. I mean, I've heard different things, I've seen the person that people say is Tupac. Hey, wonderful. Okay, so the Michael Jackson thing, I could see motive there. Of course, we could definitely see motive. He started to do kind of the Kanye thing. He was kind of early on the Kanye, exposing the people that you cannot talk about, right? So he even had a song about the people that you can't talk about, and they made him take a lyric or two out of a song, if you know what I'm talking about. And I think you know what I'm talking about. So he was being hunted by a certain group. They call them a sort of like a cartel of sorts, a gang, right? And so, yeah, Amanda, thank you. MJ lived in the Trump building. I mean, the things just started. After a while, you're like, okay, I see what I see. I don't care if my family thinks I'm crazy. I see and know what I see and know. Okay, that's all. But it's not something I need, I don't need to hang around alphabet people. I don't need to do that anymore. I just want to be a normal person. I'm not an alphabet person. Even though I might have been around alphabet people, I'm not one, okay? I just want a simple life, okay? Everybody can do their thing on whatever higher level. I don't work on those high levels, so I don't need to know stuff, okay? It's just interesting to me because it deals with reclassification. That's why I wanted to review this again and circle back to it. It's because it has implications for us, we the people. So, back to the the MJ thing, Michael Jackson. So, I got motive, I could see he got resources. It's not hard to do, right? So, there have been a few things that have come out. In fact, a friend of mine just shared something yesterday where they said Katherine Jackson, Michael Jackson's mother, had actually made a statement that Michael Jackson wasn't in that coffin. The gold coffin. So, and by the way, Michael Jackson had a funeral at the Staples Center, which is very interesting. So there have been only black men that I have ever seen have funerals at the Staples Center. If you remember, you have Michael Jackson may have been the first to have a funeral at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Then you had Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle had a funeral at the Staples Center. And some people believe that Nipsey Hussle has successfully pulled off Pseudocide. I don't know. I really like Nipsey, but I've never gone down the rabbit hole of what happened with Nipsey. I mean, I know people that believe that. So, you have Nipsey, Michael Jackson, and Kobe Bryant. Those are three black men who had funerals at the Staples Center. Big funerals. And I just want to put a pin in that because there's something to it. And I've been talking to Girl Code about it. It's just something to it, okay? Maybe one day I'll spend some time putting those things together. Those three men. But Kobe is important as well. That some people believe that he's not really, that he's pulled off a successful pseudocide. I'm not sure because he had strong enemies as well. I could show you those three men and the strong enemies that they had. And if you know Nipsey, he talked about having strong enemies. And Nipsey Hussle really disrupted, strong enemies as well. So, Michael Jackson's mother making a statement that he's not in the casket is kind of interesting because it was a gold casket. And that he's not in the mausoleum or wherever he was interred there in Los Angeles where a lot of people are. That he's not there. So you can look into it, but I just got something, yesterday. Just somebody sharing that the mother had made a statement. And I have to say that, the Jackson family, for them to have lost someone as big as Michael, one minute, I have to do two things at once. Josephine again. All right, thank you. Okay, so I was saying that the Jackson family, I don't know, I would think they'd have probably more specials and anniversaries and things. They seem to be a little quiet around that whole thing. I don't know. You all could tell me. It's just interesting. I won't say too much about it, but it's just, I don't know. I've seen footage where they were showing the ambulance when it was going to UCLA, I believe. And there was this weird footage where you see the ambulance go under like a parking kind of deck, ambulance like entrance where they go. And the ambulance stops in this particular footage. And then you see someone come out from the back and then go into a door. Some of you may have seen this footage. But it was like the person was helped, you know. It was weird. I'm just saying, it was weird. And in terms of Michael Jackson possibly pulling off Pseudocide, some people know, they just, know that he has. They have seen him. They have lots of theories around it. I have not gone into deep research about Michael Jackson, nor Tupac, nor Nipsey, in terms of all these people, or Kobe. But the one that I did spend time researching is JFK Jr. And I have certain beliefs about it. And, it just added on to the research that started in 2020. So, it's a lot to it. But the overall thing that I wanted to mention in connection to the aspect of legally faking your own death, or I don't like that so much, the word death, because death is just, that's not what I see it as. I would like to turn that around to say what it is in terms of how I see it legally. I see it as a sort of resurrection, especially if it's done according to God, in terms of becoming a person who's alive on the land under common law, and just, not being an entity, a corporate entity, but being a real organic man or woman. So if deception is involved, someone may say it's deceptive to pretend that you're dead. Now, we could discuss that. What do you think? Is it deceptive? Especially if it's something where a person's life is in danger, their family's life is in danger, and it has become so intense that this is the only other option. I don't know if it would be considered deception. That's something we could talk about. Johnny Borealis, thank you for joining. MJ's They Don't Really Care About Us, plus all his songs promoting love and healing, helped make him a target, Johnny says. Really? Thank you for joining. Amanda says MJ was in the crowd at the funeral. I've heard that. That's so funny. I like hearing these theories. I mean, it's just interesting. But again, aside from all the dramatic details, this is not that dramatic. It is simply changing your status from being dead at sea, Admiralty Maritime, under a birth certificate, and maybe even the water that your mother, you came out of your mom out of water. So it's all this, water references. So then if you become a live, living, organic man or woman under common law on the land, you're reclassified as living now. So are you faking your death? Or are you becoming alive in law? Common law. That's my question. So let's see. Amy says not deceptive. Juan says in that case, no. Hey, Menon. Oh my goodness, Manon is here. Oh, I'm glad you found us over here. Welcome. You love this subject tonight. Oh, I'm glad. I don't know what it's like up in Canada in terms of your status at birth, like it is here in the United States with the birth certificate, the way that they have us as slaves on paperwork. I'm sure it's similar in Canada, but maybe we can explore that and talk about that more. You've been looking this up? Yeah? Now, Tina says, I think deceptive depends on what you're doing it for. Probably really more alive now. Manon says you're trying also. Okay, so I am detecting that it doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody is probably being traded with some form of certificate, not just the way we have the birth certificate here in America. So becoming reclassified is going to be great to explore this in other countries. I think we should do something that really would be great for us in our little chatmosphere. Like we could take Ireland and Canada to start out with, and we could look at the issues of common law. How are the documents, how were they set up? Like we have the founding documents here of America that are based on the Bible. So we really have like a country that has documents that are based on common law, the supreme law of God. So we have that. Now, I don't know how Ireland is set up or Canada, but I think that would be great to do in our law school here, is we could look at the laws in Ireland and Canada. So we will do that, okay? And, I'll keep you posted on it, because that's where I want us to go in the direction of studying together. How do you become a common law, alive man or woman? What is the process? What is the law process behind it? And becoming knowledgeable about law. So much so that you can then teach others. Because this is a teachable thing. None of us knew. And now that we have the ability to study this together, we can teach each one, teach one. Especially when you are engaging with the broader sense of society that has no idea about law. They are on the corporate commercial law of the corporation that is already dead. They're dead because it's a corp. Everything about this society is based on death. So to become alive is to then start to use law to become alive, the law of God, and to make your pleadings, to be able to cry out, and to be in good standing, where we understand and we can grow up and mature and be able to really appreciate freedom. Because as it stands, look at what we've done here in America to our republic. We don't even understand what a republic is. We were warned about losing our republic. And we did it anyway. We lost our republic. And now it's time to learn and to make ourselves accountable. And it's all about life. We need to speak life. We need to understand the law, the supreme law of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. True freedom. So, Joseph says we have the Irish Constitution. Now that would be interesting. I definitely want to do that, Joseph. So I'm going to look into that. And also Canada, because Canada, we have lots of people in this truth community from Canada. And I think we used to have a lot from Australia, but we can make our way around and look into what's being done in these various countries, and how you can begin to move into a state of being alive, a quickening, a resurrection from this death and debt, bondage, so we can be free people. And it all starts with an education. And that's what's beautiful about the times we live in. The information age, there's no excuse, right? So we can become just about a lawyer. That's what I envision us being, like the equivalent of a common law lawyer by the end of our research. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you, and I appreciate the encouragement, to keep going. We're going to just keep going. I know that the times we live in are demoralizing. Lots of things that are going on that we're going to witness. Lots of disclosure happening. It's just so many things, so many moving parts. But just know that we are here for a big purpose. And together, we are going to, arm in arm, we're going to walk into life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're going to do it together, and we're going to do it with the love of God, and repatriating wherever we have fallen away from our Father. We're going to repatriate legally, okay? We're going to love the law together. So if you like that, that's what I see for us, okay? I see beautiful things for us. I want to speak life. So just know that this is an exciting topic for me. I will continue to try to find things like this connection, like the pseudocide. I figured it'd be a great thing to circle back to, because it relates to the sovereignty of being alive in law. That's how I see the whole pseudocide thing, okay? So thank you for joining. And I also commit to learning how to do OBS, where I can share, excuse me, wait a minute. Yes, please hit the like button. Let's get this channel. I need to do things with this channel, but it's going to take me some more to build it up, okay? And if I get access to the other channel where I can move better in that, I'll let you know, okay? Put some prayers in for me with that, please. It's just dealing with this technology, these tech companies. That's right, the spoonversity. So like I told you, we have the spoon, right? We got the spoon, and then we have the spoon. And this is how I see what we are doing right now. It's bigger than us, right? It's bigger than us. So we got big things, we're going big places, everybody. This is a big deal. All right. So I love you. I will see you soon. Take good care. And if you learn any new things, just let me know, okay? Keep me posted too, okay? So let's see. Amy has said good night, everybody. Amy said there's a guy in Australia, can't think of his name right now, need to hear him. Yeah, whatever you do, like drop it in the comments, like let me know, okay? All right, so bye-bye, everybody. I love you. Take care. Thanks for joining. And yeah, we'll be in touch, okay?